It is 1943 in Eastern Europe. The land is divided by front lines and abandoned towns. Armies with flags move across maps and reports. But there was another army here, and nobody ever claimed it. The winter of 1943 came early to Eastern Europe. The air felt heavy. Villages were silent or burned out. The main armies marched along roads and rail lines. They carried orders. They carried flags. They belonged to states and leaders. But far away from these movements, another story began to form. It did not begin with a declaration. It did not begin with a speech. It began quietly. It began in the forests. There were scattered people left behind after battles. Some were soldiers from destroyed units. Others were deserters. Some had been captured and escaped. Others had simply walked away. They were from different countries. They spoke different languages. They had no shared uniform. And none of the official armies wanted them back. They were outside the system of command. They had no records. They had no future except survival. These people drifted toward the forests because the forests were empty. The trees gave shelter. The snow covered tracks. At first they avoided one another. Then they began to meet. One man at a fire. Two women in a barn. A group hiding in a ruined village. Slowly these small groups joined. Not formally. Not through oaths. Simply by staying together. They learned to move without sound. They watched both great armies. They avoided patrols. They avoided questions. They tried not to leave traces. Food came from abandoned fields. From cellars. From hidden stores. Weapons came from old battlefields. Rifles with cracked stocks. Ammunition in rusted boxes. Sometimes nothing worked. They repaired what they could. They did not choose a flag. They did not choose a name. To choose meant to belong. And they did not belong anywhere. They were not partisans in the usual sense. They did not serve a government. They did not follow orders sent from elsewhere. They followed only the rule of survival. Stay unseen. Stay silent. Stay moving. Around them, the war grew louder. New offensives began. Cities changed hands. But in the forests there was stillness. Fires were small. Voices were low. Faces were hollow with hunger. Yet they remained. Rumors began to spread. Local people spoke of a group that came at night and vanished before dawn. Commanders heard of sabotage. Of small attacks. But no one could confirm the identity of this force. Reports used uncertain words. Possibly deserters. Unknown elements. Unregistered units. Thus the beginning passed without ceremony. Without headlines. A hidden army formed where no one looked. And because nobody claimed it, it did not officially exist. It lived only in whispers. And in the shadows under winter trees. By the middle of 1943, this unclaimed army had become a network. It was not large. It was not gathered in one place. It existed as small groups scattered across forests, marshes, and broken villages. They shared information by word of mouth. A path here. A sentry post there. A safe barn to sleep in. A well that still had water. These details meant survival. They understood the land better than the marching armies. They knew which roads turned to mud. Which bridges were weak. Which valleys filled with fog at night. They traveled on foot. Slowly. Carefully. Often alone or in pairs. The fewer the people, the smaller the mark left behind. Their resources were thin. Food was never enough. Clothing was worn to threads. Ammunition was counted bullet by bullet. Still, they continued to act. They cut telegraph lines. They loosened rail fastenings. They removed fuel from storage tanks at night. These actions were small, but they forced large responses. Patrols increased. Reports multiplied. Yet no side could prove who was responsible. Some villagers helped in silence. A loaf of bread left near a tree. A broken rifle part repaired without questions. Others were afraid and closed their doors. The unclaimed army did not punish them. It simply moved on. Attachment meant risk. Staying meant danger. Movement was safety. Inside the groups, disagreements grew. Some members believed they should fight openly. Strike larger targets. Make a name. Others insisted that the only goal was survival. To avoid being captured. To avoid being noticed. The debates were quiet but intense. There were no records. No diaries. These voices disappeared into the trees as soon as they were spoken. Still, one fact held them together. No nation admitted their existence. No command accepted their service. They were neither heroes nor traitors. They were a problem without a clear label. And slowly this absence of identity became a defining feature. They lived in a gray space. Between front lines. Between loyalties. Between recognition and erasure. Their actions continued. A train derailed one night. Supplies were lost. Another convoy vanished into an ambush. Refugees were guided along secret routes. Every time, the attacking force disappeared. Snow fell. Tracks softened. Reports remained uncertain. To the great armies, this was a nuisance. An irritation. Something to be noted and filed. But to the nameless soldiers, this was life itself. Every day without being seen was victory. Every night of quiet movement was survival. Thus their rise was never celebrated. No banners. No speeches. It existed only as a series of faint marks across a vast landscape. And even those marks began to fade with each passing season. Late in 1943, the war intensified. Both major armies pushed harder. Supply lines stretched. Losses mounted. Commanders on all sides demanded control of the countryside. Large sweeps began through forests and villages. Long lines of soldiers moved slowly, searching every barn, every shed, every tree line. The unclaimed army now found itself trapped between forces that did not recognize it and did not care to understand it. One night, a message reached several of the scattered groups. Patrols were closing in. Encirclement was likely. Meeting points were chosen deep in the forest. There were no speeches. Only instructions. Burn what can name you. Leave no lists. Leave no traces. Snow fell through the branches. The clearing filled with quiet figures. Faces pale in the dim light. Weapons old and mismatched. Some members looked tired beyond words. Others stared into the dark. There were no flags. There were no symbols. Only silence. At dawn, the sweep began. The forest filled with distant shouts and the crack of branches. Dogs barked. Boots broke through the crust of frozen snow. The unclaimed army split into small groups. Then into smaller ones still. Some escaped through marshland. Cold water up to their knees. Others hid in shallow pits covered by branches. Some were found. Some were shot. Others were taken away and disappeared into camps and prisons. There was no single battle. No decisive moment on a map. Only fragments. A handful of bodies found near a stream. A burnt shelter discovered in the trees. A line in a report, unidentified elements neutralized. No one wrote their names. No historian interviewed survivors at the time. The event dissolved as it happened. Weapons were collected. Clothing removed. Papers burned. The snow covered the disturbed ground within hours. When the patrols left, the forest returned to silence. Branches swayed in the wind. Smoke thinned and vanished. The army did not surrender. It did not sign anything. It simply ceased to exist as a group. A few individuals wandered on. Some reached distant towns. Some tried to rejoin official armies and were rejected. Others chose to remain hidden until the war ended. Many were never heard from again. The climax of their story was not a victory or defeat. It was disappearance. A final act carried out without witnesses. Without records. Without memory. And when winter deepened, even the footprints were gone. When the war finally shifted and the front lines moved elsewhere, the land slowly changed again. Roads reopened. Armies marched through in new directions. Flags changed. Reports were written. Maps were redrawn. But none of these documents mentioned the unclaimed army. It was as if it had never been there. Families searched for missing relatives. Some waited for letters that never came. Some received vague notices. Others heard only rumors. A man seen once near a forest. A woman who passed through a village and then vanished. Graves were dug in many places. Most remained unmarked. Crosses fell. Names were forgotten. After the war, officials collected records. They built narratives. They honored recognized units and decorated known heroes. The forgotten soldiers did not belong to any of these stories. They were too uncertain. Too undefined. They did not fit into national memory. So they slipped out of it. In the forests, the traces decayed. Wooden shelters collapsed. Metal rusted. Cloth turned to fragments in the soil. A few villagers remembered. For a while. Then those villagers grew old. Their voices faded. New generations walked through the same trees without knowing what had happened there. Historians found almost nothing. Only scattered lines in military files. Mentions of unknown saboteurs. Unregistered formations. Anonymous dead. The pieces would not join. The story could not be confirmed with certainty. And so it drifted to the edges of history. No nation claimed this army. No monument listed its members. There were no anniversaries. No parades. No preserved flags in museums. The soldiers who once moved silently through Eastern Europe left behind almost nothing that could be touched. Or named. Yet for a brief time, they had lived. They had organized themselves in the shadows. They had walked cold roads at night. They had shared bread. They had argued in whispers. They had tried to survive in a world that had no place for them. Then they were gone. Today the forests stand quietly. Snow falls as it did then. Wind moves through the trees. There are paths, but they belong to no one. The silence is complete. The memory is thin. Almost erased. And history continues. Without them. Without their names. Without their place on the map. Only the absence remains. These stories are rarely told. Subscribe if you want to hear the next one.